What's up guys, John Bird III here. We're back again for another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about a bait that is great to fish in the wind, the spinner bait. And also we're going to talk about my setup to go along with that. So to jump right into this video, we're going to go ahead and first talk about the reel. And the reel that I use on my spinner bait setup is the Tier 1 American Hero bait cast reel. And so I know we've talked about the Tier 1 rods before because we know that that's my jerkbait setup rod. And so the reel, we haven't mentioned the reel thus far yet. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth with this reel and why I chose this reel for throwing the spinnerbait. So for one, I like the reel. It's very aesthetically pleasing because I love the multicam. If you know anything about me, like I love camouflage, and the multicam is definitely something that I really love. And so that's one thing that I like about this reel. Sometimes even when you look good when you're fishing, you feel like you fish better as well. So I like the look of this. Sergeant Major Jamie Caldwell played a big part in designing this reel. And so he wanted a reel that was very simple, but also that will be, I guess you could say, bulletproof, combat ready. And so this reel right here is simple to dial in. You have your external brakes on the outside. You have no pins on the inside. And then you got your gas pedal. We already know what that means. So once you adjust your gas pedal to determine how fast it comes down, you set your brakes, you're ready to go. I mean, simple as, I don't know how simple you can get with that. And so that's what I like about this reel. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this in any of my other videos where I talked about some of the Tier 1 stuff. Anytime you buy an American Hero product, whether it's a Tier 1 series, the black and blue American Hero stuff, or just the regular camo American Hero stuff, part of the proceeds goes back to helping our veterans. And that is something that I really love about the American Hero program. The program really hits home for me because my uncle's a disabled Vietnam vet. And so anytime I pick this reel up, I think about him. I think about some of my other buddies that fish that are in the military and stuff like that, or now that they're retired from the military, I think about them. So anytime I use these American Hero products, it hits home for me, and I'm just ever so grateful for all our veterans that have went out and served to protect this country. And so if you are a big believer in supporting our veterans and stuff like that, definitely go check out any of the American Hero series, especially the Tier 1 series. They're all awesome. And if you get one of the Tier 1 setups, I promise you, you're going to love it. So line size on here, I got 15-pound fluorocarbon. I think this is the Contra. Like I said, this year I'm testing more so the tour grade fluorocarbon. And so I'm testing between and comparing the Contra versus the tour grade. And so far, like I said, well, here I got on Contra. I've been using Contra for a while. I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I mean, that's just what I use. I normally go 17 on the spinnerbait, but I want to try to downsize to see if I get more bites. And I want to see how it compares to whenever I'm fishing the spinnerbait with 17. So trying something a little bit different. That's the only way you're going to be able to grow. You got to try stuff a little bit differently to find out what works and what don't work. So 15 pound is normally is what I'm going to start off with right here. And we're just going to see how it goes more and more throughout the season, how well I like it. I may end up switching back to 17, but once I figure that out, I'll definitely let you guys know. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into the rod. The rod that I use is the Tier 1. It's a 7-foot medium heavy fast, and it is labeled rigs, jigs, and skipping. So 7-foot medium heavy is a great all-around rod, power, and action. And so I like this rod simply, like I said, for the spinnerbait. This rod comes with the VTR transfer ring, as I talked about with the jerkbait rod, and it's just comfortable. It's a comfortable rod to fish with. It loads really well, which is why I throw a spinnerbait on it. It's shorter because a lot of people, and this is something that I noticed, and I'm not really 100% sold on it, but a lot of people like a 6'10" for throwing the spinnerbaits. I like a slightly longer rod. Y'all know I like a 7'2" to a 7'4". So with the 7-footer, I feel like it's just kind of a great all-around rod length. So I'm testing the 7-footer. The rod I used to use for spinnerbaits was the KBD GC6, and that was a 7'4" medium heavy extra fast. But that rod will load so well, and I really, really love that rod. But I was like, let me try to downsize because a 7'4" is a longer rod. I mean, point blank period. So I was like, well, when you're fishing a spinnerbait and you're getting tied up in the cover, whether you're fishing around docks, cypress trees, stumps, anything like that, fishing really shallow, you want a slightly shorter rod. And I understand the mindset behind it, but I feel like when you have that longer rod, you take up more line anytime you do that sweeping hook set. And that is why I like a long rod. So we're going to try to meet a little bit in the middle with the 7-footer. But thus far, I like the rod. I think the rod is perfect. Like I said, anytime I pick up this rod or the Tier 1 reel, I feel like I'm combat ready. And when you're fishing a spinnerbait, I mean, come on, you're getting in the thick of it. So it's like you literally close quarter combat. So what better rod reel setup that you need for close quarter combat than the Tier 1 series? And so it also comes with the EVA foam handles. And like when your hands get wet, I mean, your hands still don't slip, and I like it. And I'm able to really, really hold on to this rod really well. I like the blank on the rod. It's a HM50, so the rod is really sensitive. So if I decided, all right, I'm gonna cut my spinnerbait off, I'm gonna tie on a 3/8 ounce jig, I can do that on this rod. If I say I'm not really feeling the jig right now, or they're not really biting the jig, all right, I can cut that off, tie on a Texas rig. And this HM50 blank, if I'm dragging something on the bottom, it is sensitive enough to be able to pick up those very subtle light bites, and then I'm quickly able to reel down, set the hook, get the fish in the boat. And I mean, that's what you need. You need a sensitive rod. Now, a lot of people say, and I've heard this before, that you don't need a very, very sensitive rod for moving baits. But when this rod was designed, it was designed to be used for multiple different techniques, which is why it's called, or it's labeled rigs, jigs, and skipping. And so that's why he wanted a more higher end blank on this particular rod. So that's why I'm able to feel those very subtle bites. Also with a spinnerbait sometimes, because you know that they kind of nip at it sometimes, whether they're not really feeling the bite, and so, or not feeling the bait, I should say. And so a higher end blank, or a blank that is very more sensitive, you are able to detect those subtle bites. And once they really got it, you're able to set the hook and it loads really well and you got them pinned. And that is what I like about this rod right here. So overall, like spinnerbait setup, the rod is perfect. You already seen the reel. What I talked about is a very simple reel. It looks cool and it works. Like, you need a setup that works, point blank, period. Of course, we start with the rod, we start with the reel, we talk about the line size, and now we're just gonna go ahead and jump into the bait. And so the bait that I use is the Strike King tool grade spinnerbait. So my go-to size, 1/2 ounce. I don't go to 3/8, I don't go to 3/4. I love a 1/2 ounce. And this color right here, this color is called spot removal. So you got a little bit of white and black, and you got the chartreuse in there. And then it has, I like the double willow blades on here. And so one is silver and one is gold. So why do I use this spinnerbait and this spinnerbait only? I like the color pattern, white and chartreuse. I feel like that's great all around, no matter what the water clarity is. The blade combination is not going to give off a whole lot of disturbance as if it had a Colorado blade. I've tested a lot of other spinnerbaits from a lot of various other brands, and this spinnerbait right here, to me, I feel like it runs true. It's very durable, and like you can catch multiple fish and big fish on it. And all you gotta do is just squeeze the wire, make sure it gets back in place, because any spinnerbait you fish is gonna get a little wonky, I guess you could say. And so you're able to just mold it right back to the shape that it originally came, like straight out the pack, and you're able to get back to fishing. This spinnerbait also has a wire tied skirt. So you ain't got to worry about that rubber band on the skirt sliding down, or if you had the spinnerbait for a while in a box with soft plastic and stuff, that rubber band kind of just, I guess you could say, deteriorates or whatever. And so it has a wire tied skirt, so you ain't got to worry about the skirt getting pulled down. And also, now it has a decent bait keeper, but something that I do differently on my spinnerbaits, I don't run a trailer. Like, in my mind, I can't rationalize running a trailer. I've seen with other spinnerbaits from other brands that I've used in the past, I put a trailer on there and the spinnerbait runs sideways, and I don't like it. And every time I switch back to this spinnerbait and not put no trailer on it, I get bit and I catch pretty good sized fish. Like, and when I say good sized fish, I'm like good 3-pounders, 4-pounders, and bigger. And that is why I like this spinnerbait, and that is why I don't run no trailer. Now, a lot of people run the like boot tail trailer, whether it be like a smaller Rage Swimmer or Kitech, or some people, like, I know like Jason Christie runs like, it's like Yum's version of a swim worm or whatever. But I don't have no confidence with putting a trailer on here. And so leave down in the comments if you put a trailer on your spinnerbait and what trailer that you put on there. And I may go out, I may try it, but this is just what I have confidence in. No trailer, getting it up as close as I can to the cover, in the cover, and just slow rolling that thing and just really, really slow rolling it. And a spinnerbait works well, again, especially in the wind. So I got a tournament coming up, and I'm going to tie this bait on. It's supposed to be a little bit windy, and so when you see this video, I will be fishing the tournament, and I'm going to throw this bait up on points. And then when you're anytime you're fishing a blueback herring lake, you're supposed to burn it. But I like to slow roll my spinner baits, and then I adjust the cadence periodically. I may slow roll it, I may stop it, then I may slow roll it again, then I may burn it a couple times. And those blueback herring they just move really, really fast, and those bass like that, which is another reason why I like the willow blade over the Colorado blade. Now, a lot of people love a Colorado blade when the water is muddy, when the water and it's colder, and it's in like the water temperature is like, I would say like 60s, maybe a little bit less than that, and that big Colorado blade is just thumping and thumping, kind of like a bladed jig. And I remember Bradley Hallman did a video on comparing the bladed jig versus a spinnerbait with a big Colorado blade, and I thought it was a pretty good video the way he explained it. But I tend to lean more so to the spinnerbait only when it's windy. Now, one of my buddies, and when he fishes a spinnerbait, that's one of his favorite baits. He fishes it all year long, whether there's wind, no wind, whether it's hot, whether it's cold. He always has a spinnerbait tied on. And for me, it's very, very situational. Wind, when I'm fishing points, or the fish are like really, really shallow, and I could throw it up against laydowns and inside of like when you have those laydowns that have all the different arms, just kind of picking the arms apart and slow rolling down there. And then when, like I said, when you have the big long trees that are in the water, going along the trees, if you're down like Santee, alongside the cypress trees, around the stumps and stuff like that, that is where I normally typically pick up the spinnerbait. But I normally gravitate to the bladed jig if I can get bit on that. I'm more so inclined to want to throw that over the spinnerbait, but I know that in the wind, the spinnerbait works. So we're going to have this tied on. We're going to get out there. We're going to try to catch a bag. But I wanted to talk about my setup because I know that I was going to use this, and we haven't talked about that yet. And also, the spinnerbait works great in the springtime. So that's another reason why we needed to talk about it. So my spinnerbait setup is very simplistic. I don't do a whole lot of modification to my spinnerbaits, playing with different blades and different colors. This is the one spinnerbait that I use, the tour grade spinnerbait, 1/2 ounce spot remover color, 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon, 7-foot medium heavy tier 1 rod, 7.5-to-1 gear ratio, tier 1 reel. Some people like to go down to a 6-speed gear ratio. I'm like, I'm going to slow roll it anyway, so there's no need for me to even go down to a 6-speed reel. So 7.5-to-1, it works perfect, and that's my setup. I appreciate you guys watching today's video. Go ahead and hit that like button. Share this with somebody who you know that loves to fish a spinnerbait, and let me know what they think. Leave a comment down below. Give me some other topics that you want to hear me talk about in this video series. Like I said, we got a bunch more combos to talk about and a bunch of more of my techniques that I use and how I use them. But leave a comment. Who knows? Your comment might be the next video that we talk about. So make sure you leave a comment down below. I'm JB3. I got to get back to living a dream. I'll catch you later.